spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat. The human drama of athletic competition. This is
DJ, Sean, and JJ's
Wide World of Sports.
On April 1st, 1972, players in the MLB began their first ever strike. It lasted until April 13th, 1972, just under 2 weeks. 86 games were missed during this time. This financial hit to owners forced their hand as players gained the right to salary arbitration.
On April 8th, 1974, Hank Aaron hit his 715th home run, breaking Babe Ruth's 39-year record. He had 755 in his career. He received hate mail and death threats months before, as they didn't want to see him break Babe Ruth's record.
Here's the pitch by Downing, swinging. There's a drive into left center field. That ball is going to be out of here. It's gone. It's 7:15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
In 1975, the Supreme Court ruled that Major League Baseball players had the right to become free agents after a certain time played, and in 1976, Major League Baseball decided that after 6 years of playing, players could become free agents. Since the implementation of free agency in Major League Baseball, player salaries have gone up exponentially.
In early 1973, the owners of the Major League Baseball teams voted to allow the American League to use a designated hitter. The designated hitter would bat in place of the pitcher while allowing him to still pitch. On April 6, 1973, while playing for the New York Yankees, Ron Blomberg became the first ever designated hitter.
During the 1970s, the most popular form of offense was one built around a strong run game. Immediately prior to the 70s and in the decades that have followed it, running the ball took a backseat to passing it, leaving the 70s as a golden age of running.
In the 1970s, there were few teams better than the Dallas Cowboys, the Minnesota Vikings, Los Angeles Rams, and the Oakland Raiders. Each of these four teams destroyed every other team in their division. This lasted throughout the decade until they slowly started to decline.
One of the top two teams of the 1970s was the Pittsburgh Steelers. Anchored by their defensive line, known as the Steel Curtain, the Steelers' defense was a force to be reckoned with. The leader of the Curtain was Mean Joe Green, followed by Elsie Greenwood, Ernie Holmes, and Dwight White. The Steelers won the Super Bowl 3 times in the 1970s. In 1972, the Steelers made one of the most memorable plays in football history, known as the Immaculate Reception.
Last chance for the Steelers. Bradshaw trying to get away. And his pass is broken up by Tatum. Tipped off. Franco Harris has it. And he's over. What? Franco Harris grabbed the ball on a deflection. 5 seconds to go. He grabbed it with 5 seconds to go and scored. When you talk about Christmas miracles, here's the miracle of all miracles. Watch this one now. Bradshaw's lucky to even get rid of the ball. He shoots it out. Jack Tatum deflects it right into the hands of Harris. And he sets off, and the big 230-pound rookie slipped away from Warren and scored.
The other of the two best teams in the 1970s were the Miami Dolphins. Powered by their perfect backfield of Jim Kick, Larry Zonka, and Mercury Morris, the Dolphins went undefeated in the 1972 season, winning the Super Bowl. To this day, they are the only team to have ever accomplished this in the history of the NFL. In 1978, the NFL changed its regular season schedule, expanding it from 14 to 16 games and having a preseason consisting of 4 games.
On August 5th, 1976, the NBA merged with its rival league, the ABA. It took on 4 of the ABA's teams: the Denver Nuggets, the Indiana Pacers, the New York Nets, and the San Antonio Spurs. The ABA was more popular at the time, but were riddled by a series of bad business decisions. This forced them to make the move to merge with the NBA. The NBA was slow to develop the three-point line, as it was first dreamt about in the 30s, and the ABA brought it into play in the 60s. It wasn't until 1979 that the NBA introduced the three-point line. It was made to be 23 feet 9 inches straight away from the basket and 22 feet from the corners. In 1994, they changed it to 22 feet around the whole dimension to try to boost scoring. Soon after, in 1997, they brought it back to its original dimensions.
During the 1972 Olympic Games, there was a terrorist attack known as the Munich Massacre. 8 Palestinian terrorists killed 2 members of the Israeli Olympic team and then took 9 other hostages. The situation was ended by a huge gunfight that left 5 of the terrorists and all of the 9 hostages dead. Tensions were already high at these Olympics because they were the first Olympic Games held in Germany since the Nazis hosted the Games in 1936. This event added to the prior tension. Mark Spitz was born October 10, 1950 in Modesto, California. As a young boy, he always knew that he wanted to be a swimmer. After winning 5 gold medals in the 1967 Pan American Games, he was supposed to do great things in the 1968 Olympics, but surprisingly, he didn't win a single event. In the years prior to the 1972 Olympics, Spitz won many events and was awarded the Sullivan Award, which is given to the best amateur swimmer. In the 1972 Olympics, he set an Olympic record, winning 7 gold medals, all of the wins in world record time. He became the world's greatest swimmer, and some still view him as the greatest swimmer of all time. In 1973, Secretariat became the first horse to win the Triple Crown since 1948. To win the Triple Crown, you need to win the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont Stakes. Secretariat blew away the competition in every race, especially the Belmont Stakes, as he set a track record, completing the 1.5-mile course in 2 minutes and 24 seconds. He also won by a record 31 lengths. Secretariat was the most dominant racehorse of all time. The Thrilla in Manila was the 3rd fight between Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier, and it took place in Manila, Philippines. Ali coined the phrase before the fight, "It will be a killer and a thriller and a chiller when I beat the gorilla in Manila." The fight was very violent. Many said this was because both the fighters were older and past their prime, so they didn't care much about their bodies. Ali won with a TKO after the 14th round.
In the late 1970s, Wayne Gretzky entered the NHL. He would go on to become the greatest hockey player of all time.